that should act as pretty decent psychological support. And if that breaches, you have 4093 to deal with. That's coming from the weekly chart. And that breaches for some reason, you're looking at a push all the way down into 4080 area, 4079, 4080 area. And for some reason, I think this is a hard ask today, given the CPI in line and all that, CPI, PPI in line, and FOMC not really doing much. So and almost all the larger or the bigger risks to the economies or global economies. Yeah, the numbers are coming down for the global economy, but the risks have also been alleviated, right? So the risk have come down. So likely scenario, I don't see anything on the horizon at the moment. I think it's purely technicals right now. We'll deal with the real estate issue when it comes due. Probably that's not due until 2025. So we'll deal with it when that happens. Besides that, right now I don't see anything. And seasonally speaking, April is supposed to be a good month. Probably in May you'll see a drawdown. That whole saying about sell in May and go away. Probably that will come into picture, and probably we'll see some drawdown in SPX, or rather the markets overall. But tech seems like it's going to do well, mostly because of the what do you call the AI, the revolution that is happening in AI. Looks like tech will survive this. Uh, why? Because the cost of doing business, or the cost of doing business, basically that is going to go down, and that's going to add to their bottom lines. So tech, I think, will come out looking pretty decent on the other side of this whole thing. Financials, not so sure. However, the thing with financials right now is that I think financials are also on a very good footing because uh, the Fed, the unemployment rate, right? Rather the employment market. That thing is very robust right now. You have the lowest unemployment, tick in modern history. So I think as long as the unemployment is low, the Fed will keep the rates high. Right? That's the equation there. So why is that? That basically is the economy is on a better footing. So Fed can keep going with the the interest rates. That's the equation there. Unemployment low and job openings still high. Yes, yes, yes. That's what the Jolt was saying. So yeah, that's the expectation there. So as long as that unemployment rate keeps ticking at about 3.5, I'm thinking that till it gets to 4 or somewhere or closer to 4, even probably 3.75. Let's say 3.75 to 3.8. Even till then, I think the Fed will keep my understanding is that till 4, the Fed will keep the interest rate higher, just about 5.5. That's where they're going to hold it. And yeah, so if that is the case, then financials will also do good, right? In a higher interest rate environment, financials will do really good. And I think the financials will continue to do good. And the tech story is continuing to improve, and DXY continuing to move lower. And I think DXY will hover around this 99 to 102 range, not a big deal. So I think it's going to be in that range. And unless it clears, we'll go through DXY chart again. Unless it clears that mean on the day, I'm not going to, rather 50 on the day, I'm not going to take it seriously, right? So that's the bigger picture. And also on the bigger, talking about the bigger picture, uh, China. China is doing really well, right? China is doing really well, and the global inflation seems to be calming down. That's another factor that is playing into all of these. I think the commodities will still do really good. Um, I'm not sure at the moment if I'm looking at anything negative. I think the market will catch up to that fact that there is actually no negative. However, there is a understanding. There's also an understanding that market likes to climb a wall of worries. Right now, because there are no worries, and the market doesn't seem to be that much happy or that much enthusiasm. We can see that in the volume, right? We can see that in the volume. The volume is very anemic over the last 2 weeks, actually, week and a half. You can check that volume every single. on the daily, on SPY and other ones, the volume has shrunk significantly, in fact. And another thing is that the market has been in this range for quite some time, right? Even after this much of consolidation and whatnot, it's unable to pierce through the highs that it made here. So that's a concern. That is a serious concern. We should have been, I think, the market should have been higher here, but that is not happening. So this is another concern, and I'm not sure if I'm really not sure if the market has what it takes for it to actually move beyond this line right here. So this is where I was getting my number from, 42.30, 42.50 area. That's to the upside, and to the downside, probably this is what we are looking at, 38.50 area. So yeah, within the second standard deviation, I think on the week, I think the market should behave within this range, unless it breaches the second standard deviation either to the upside or to the downside. I think there is market is going to spend a lot of time within this range, probably throughout the summer. Maybe it might spike out a little bit upside, maybe it might spike out a little bit to the downside. But I think majority of the time market will spend here within this range. Third standard deviation, that would be good if it can, actually climb up to the third standard deviation on the week, but it's a hard ask as of now. Unless, there's some serious catalyst coming in form of earnings. Earnings are crucial, and majority of the reason that we are seeing this consolidation happening in the market, even with CPI, FOMC, all in one day. I think that's because of the earnings, right? Earnings are a wait and watch right now, especially from the tech. Banking, we know that they are right now they are solid, and they are backstopped by the government itself, or rather the treasury itself. So pretty much everything, it looks smooth on the surface, at least. Maybe there are some holes, some decent holes in the internal system, but as of now, looks like pretty much everything is solid. Everything is backstopped by the government agencies. Not really worried about that there. Cool thing. So let's go here. Yesterday, I was saying that this is the situation. It got oversold here, and I was looking downside. I was looking for that 41 to 49 on ES. Upside, I was looking for 41.28 to 41.34. That was based on where is that 32 to 34. This is what that was based on. I think. Yeah, I think this is what that was based on. Yeah. And let's see. This is a 90-minute chart. So let's say if it comes back up and clears this number here, a very likely chance that we'll get this number again today, 4150 area on ES. So that's not far. That's about 20 points from where we are right now. I think this is doable, especially if you see Apple. Yeah. So let's finish this chart actually. So to the upside, if it clears here, we're going to test this number 4140. That clears, we're going to test this 4144. After that, probably this should be it again for the markets. About 4150 area, 4150 to 41. Where is that? Right about here, right? So this area, I think this should be it for the markets today, on the future side of things. But if it clears there, then we'll start to reassess the whole thing in real time. Probably we'll add up another right about here. So we'll add this number to it. If that clears 4150 area, 4171, and this clears, then we're going to add this number. And I don't think a market has uh, uh, enough to clear this 4187 today. I don't think this is a case today, but just in case, we have to chart, so that's the reason we are charting it. Cool. And to the downside, again, the same area, 5, that clears the 8, and that clears. We're looking at a push all the way down here on the weekly chart, about 4090 area, that breaches the 4084 area. That's the, and then subtract about 27 points from ES, you'll get SPX numbers. Let's go here. Yes, not the chart. Right, so this is annoying. Right. So idea with Apple, the thesis with Apple yesterday was for it to come back down and hit this number, and even better, right about here. So the thesis yesterday was for Apple to come back into the mean that reaches, this is the number. Uh, if we have the yesterday's recording, go ahead, go through that. So here is what is happening, right? In a different, probably in a different time, I would have probably easily go short here and take this thing all the way down here into this one. So probably we are looking for a bounce here because this thing is hitting that. Are we getting? I think we got that bounce as well. So yeah, so this very likely when the market opens, you will see this thing go up, and that's just how it behaves, right? It is hitting right here and bouncing. That's just how it behaves. Now the bounce might last all the way up into 5 and 8, and I think if it hasn't already hit, very likely the bounce will last into 5 and 8 on the day. That clears will start to plot in probably 163.80 again. Yeah, I think even after this bounces, very likely scenario is that it will be an ephemeral bounce. Probably next week or something, we'll see some. When is the earnings again? I think next month. I think my understanding is that it should be an ephemeral bounce, and after that ephemeral bounce, I think it should come back and test this number here, 157 area. If that's going to happen today, I'm not sure. We'll see that happen in real time, and probably we'll take a trade based on the real time. This chart is oversold, bounced here, going up. Very likely it's going to, if it clears here, 171, 161.75, then it's going to go hit this number. Very likely it's going to take a breather at about 162 area. How deep of a breather, we don't know yet. So we'll have to figure that one out in real time. Come on. This is just how the markets work, right? This is just how it works. Anytime you see this setup, blindly go for a trade, and you'll see a bounce, at least 5, 8, and the mean will get tested. Upside, if it clears here, then we are looking at rather it's a new hour starting, I think. So yeah, if it comes down, the downside probably is 161.18 that breaches the 5, 161 that breaches the 8. I think this is likely. 160, 160.79 area. I think to the downside, this is what we are looking at the mean, and to the upside, if it clears here, 160, 160 area, then we are looking for a test of this number right about here, 160, 195 to 162. Very likely, I think it will reject here, and if it starts to come back down, then likely scenario we are looking at a mean reversion on the hour, and if the mean reversion happens, very likely it will take a bounce again. And probably should not go beyond this number today. I think 162 to probably 162.20 area. Not looking for Apple to cross this line to the upside. And if it does cross this line to the upside for some reason, then likely scenario will see that SP that ES crossing that 40-50 area. That's the likely scenario. If Apple moves beyond this 162.20 area, then likely scenario we'll see SPX moving beyond with strength beyond that 4150 area, or rather whatever this line here is, right? So that's the equation as of now. Cool. So let's go here. Microsoft. This daily chart, it is trying to cross to the downside. My understanding is still that it needs to cross to the downside. And again, the same scenario. I think 5, right about here, it should come back down to this 282, 283 area. Other 282, it should breach that, and then the mean reversion should happen. Whether it's going to happen today, I think it should happen today. Mean reversion, I think it should happen today about 280 area, and if not 280 area, then the mean should move up based on what Microsoft is doing here. The mean should move up, so we should have at least a technical mean reversion, if not the actual mean reversion. The actual mean right now is about 280. Very likely the mean will move up to about 281 or something. I think we will have the mean reversion. And then likely scenario, first hit of the mean, it will bounce. Then if it comes back down and tests the mean again, likely scenario it will breach it, and then it will come back into 21. 21 right now is sitting at about 278. Likely we'll see 21 move up or wherever this technical would be. Very likely scenario is that Microsoft will hit that number. Let's go here from Microsoft. Same thing, right? It should this should happen. I think this should happen. for Microsoft again, and if that breaches, likely scenario we're looking at right about here 279. That breaches, it should come back into this number about 275, the 270. So I'm extending this line, the red line right here. This should act as decent support for Microsoft about 267, 267, 276, 277 area. My understanding again is that this should happen. Maybe not today, but I think this maybe we are looking at a mean reversion today, but later, probably tomorrow, I don't know, but this should happen, I think, because this thing is overbought. This thing is overbought. Likely scenario is that we want to test at least the 8 on the week, and then we look for a bounce. And I think Microsoft and Nvidia are kind of coupled here. Let's see, Nvidia. Right. So my idea of Nvidia was, even after the bounce, I was wanting to short it, and I think it should come back down and test this number. Potentially very overbought here, and PE is insane right now. Given this, high interest rate environment, this PE is not at all, justified. So it needs to come back down into this 262 area. Probably after that, but it'll take a bounce here. That breaches likely scenario. This is what we are looking at, right about 250, 275 area. We want to see this thing, we want to see this thing come back down. And let's go here. So mean reversion has happened. Very likely it's going to go hit this number, probably 263 area. That breaches, we are looking for a push down into 258 and probably here. This thing has to happen, and I think Microsoft has to move lower for this thing to actually move lower. So, or vice versa, right? So we want to see this thing come down. We want to see Microsoft come down. We want to see Apple come down. So I think if I, if I'm taking a trade, I will likely want to trade the downside. I don't really want to chase the upside. Even if I'm chasing an upside trade, likely scenario, I'll be, a very what do you call, my position size will not be, anything huge. Probably I'll stick to five or less than five, probably two contracts. At the max, if I'm seeing something very clear trade to the upside, probably I'll go with five contracts, nothing more than that. Uh, and the futures trade, I think that's a very good hedge trade. Futures, because they don't lose value to theta, and given the environment that we are just oscillating between that 100 to 75 points, I think I'll trade more futures than options. Yeah, let's get into lower time frame here with Microsoft. Right, it is moving lower. We want to see it move lower. We want to see it breach that to the 283, and probably we want to see it come back down here into 281. And probably this is where it should bounce a decent amount, 280, 281 area. However, after this bounce, I would still want to see it breach. I still want to see it come back down into this number. This, if it comes back into this number, this is a definite bounce. 278, 278.80, wherever this would be, wherever this would open. If it comes down into this number, this is a definite bounce about here. Whole thing. Let's get into a bit of Tesla. Oversold condition, bouncing, no surprises. 5.8 if it clears here. 183.30 area, it's going to go hit this number, 184 and 184.20 area. This should happen. There is still enough ammo here, and if I think everybody has this indicator here. Easier trades, when this crosses, and if you see this oversold condition, this is pretty easy trade. Right, crosses upside, hits a five, hits a eight. Likely scenario, if it clears there, then you'll hit the mean. And if you want to trade this much easier, you want to go down here on the 1 hour chart. Yeah, look for entries now here. Look for entries, right? So this is a much easier setup. Anytime you see the MFI down here, this is an easier trade. Just need to cross right about here, take the trade. It's a five, it's a eight, and this is the hourly chart. It should happen the mean reversion, likely scenario. Mean reversion, probably a breather here, but then if that clears, very likely it's going to go hit this number, 184.20 area. And if it clears here, 184.20, then we'll do it in real time, probably into this number, 186 area. I think there is enough ammo for that to happen, but let's see how it behaves at the mean. Mean should be a breather spot, but if it clears the mean, then very likely we're going to see this get tested. When I say this, go by the technicals, not by the actual number, right? Because the technicals keep changing, so we'll go by the technicals. Right, that's what is happening with Tesla. And let's go here. Right. So downside, okay, this is where we said it is gonna bounce. Right, so right about here. 177. So this is line in the sand. So this is what will hold Tesla, I think, to the downside. So if it comes down here, I think I'll look for another bounce. And look at Tesla here. This wants to move lower, so I think this bounce would be an ephemeral bounce, unless Apple and Microsoft decide to, for some reason, buying comes into picture and that thing moves higher. I think Tesla, whatever this bounce is happening, I think it should be an ephemeral bounce. So define downside right about here, 177 to 176 area, and to the upside, this is where it will try to go. But I don't think it's going to go there in a straight line. If it clears here, you can expect it to hit this 185.50 area, decent resistance. That clears right about here, 187. That clears about 188.60. That clears, then likely scenario 192. I don't think it's going to go past one. In fact, I don't think it's going to go past this 186, 187 for the day. But for some reason, if that clears, we'll start to look for a mean reversion in real time, about 189.50 area. I think mean should reject it. Mean should reject it. But if some reason mean clears it, then we are looking for a clear, push all the way up till 192, and that would push the SPX, I think, closer to that 4177, 4187 area. If this happens, that Tesla pushes all the way into this 50 moving average on the day. Cool thing. Anything else we're looking at? Yeah, this guy yesterday we were looking forward, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, and we got that thing, and if it moves lower, I think it'll move down to this number. Let's look at this chart here. Right. So this is where I think it is headed, right? Yesterday we were looking at this chart, and likely scenario it'll breach it, and we should head into DXY should head into this number 1050, sorry, 148 to 150 area, and then we are looking at a bounce. This will be oversold here, and it just needs to. It should have bounced at the second standard deviation, but fair enough. Let it come back down, and it should bounce somewhere about here. This bounce should be ephemeral again. This bounce, the this that would be a technical bounce, just a 100-day moving average and oversold conditions. Again, if the bounce lasts, probably you're looking at the five on the week. I don't think it has what it takes to go beyond the five. And just in case it does go till five, I think we'll see some more weakness in. This should put the downward pressure on Apple and Microsoft and Tesla if this moves to the upside till the five. That's a hard ask as of now, but let's keep that in mind. So if it bounces here from the second standard deviation, this is what we are looking at. As a, I think this is also a hard ask. I don't think that it has what it takes to go all the way up to 101.60 or something like that. But 101.63, 101.70, I think if it does come back up till 101.70 area, I think that will put some downward pressure on tech because the MACDs are already crossed. And if it clears here, then we are looking at the 8. And I don't think it will, for whatever reason, if it comes back up to 8, I don't think it has anything, it doesn't have strength beyond it. I just don't think that. But maybe, next week we're looking at the 8, and then probably again a shot at mean reversion. Probably next week, not a story for this week. If it does go, if it does clear the upper inner Bollinger Band and go and try and hit the mean, by the time I think the mean will also be coming down. And if it does next week, this is a story for next week. And if it does this next week, likely scenario, we'll see some downward pressure on tech. Cool thing. Anything else in particular? Can you look at UNH? Yeah, yep. Let's do that real time. 1 minute to open.